this regular meeting of the Plain Township Board of Trustees, January 23rd, 2018 to order. Everybody rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The agenda is in front of everybody. Do we have any additions, deletions, or corrections from anyone?
Yes, Mr. President, I just received an additional communication. It'll be communication number 3.
Alright.
Your concerns of trustees are going to put your yard waste off.
Anyone else?
I need to add fiscal officer number 11, transfer of funds.
Yeah, we just have one more space, so that was all you were going to get. Anything else? Mr. Lino, anything else? Anyone else? Okay, based on that then. First thing we have is the monthly report for the sheriff. So, Sergeant Connie, welcome.
How's everybody today?
Doing well, how are you?
I'm great, thanks for asking. This is the December 2017 monthly report. Our calls for service for the month were 1165, up greatly compared to last year by about 43%. Our crashes were up as well with 92, it's about 51% increase from last year. And our crashes with injury were up significantly as well at 14. We had 122 alarms, 149 traffic stops, another huge increase, 145 citations, which were up, again, very, very big compared to 2016. 48 arrests, 384 vacation checks. Detective Ross had 10 cases assigned and one breaking and entering closed with 2 arrests out of that. So that's pretty good. And then the next 2 pages are just our yearly comparables. We're up to we have a 5-year comparative now. So a definite increase, I would say, across the board. Not only just compared month to month, but year to year as well. So, you guys have any questions?
I'd just like to say thank you to Sergeant Hall, who came out last week after my hours, but helped me with an issue for quite some time. So I appreciate how quickly you came out and helping me in that situation.
Anytime.
All right, thanks guys.
Anybody in the audience have anything for the sheriff? Questions, concerns? All right, having done that, we'll move on. New business, I'll turn that over to Ms. Campbell.
Thank you. Item number 1 is more of a housekeeping issue. It's a resolution to authorize the trustees, fiscal officer, administrator, and department heads to attend the 2018 Ohio Township Association Winter Conference, to authorize payment for pre-registration and parking lodge reimbursement according to our travel policy.
I will move on new business number 1.
Second.
And moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 2 is a removal of 2529 Endro Northeast. For this topic, I'm going to turn it over to both our fire chief and our zoning inspector director.
We did go out and inspect this property along with the building department. It clearly is structurally unsound, so we believe we should move forward with that and with the 30-day notice. And we have to obviously send them a letter of right to appeal for that. So,
the fire department did the bulk of the legwork on this, and we started it early with a complaint And,
This is one of the two, this is one of the two
Yes,
on back-to-back streets, one's over on Rowan and the other. This is the first, this is probably actually, not that either of them are good, but this is the worst one of the two. Where it's essentially collapsed in on itself and then fell out forward. So I think we may anticipate, based upon some conversations, the individual trying to dispute or contest it. I mean, there's no way this thing's even remotely close to rehabilitative unless you
No.
put a match to it, start anew or excavate it all out. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
And there was a resident that had identified it to me, and we told him it'd take us a little bit of time, but we go through the process, so I appreciate you guys doing it.
That's a good job. You stayed with it, I know that, that's great.
Yeah. So you have before you a resolution which has identified the real property at 2529 Endro Northeast, parcel number as described as insecure, unsafe, or structurally defective. An on-site inspection was completed, dates as said. So be it hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees that you find the real property insecure, unsafe, and structurally defective, and as a result, unfit for human habitation. Be it further resolved that the board authorizes the above reference building to Ohio Revised Code 505.86 and the Plain Township Property Maintenance Code. Additionally, be it resolved that at least 30 days prior to the removal of the identified building, certified mail notice will be given to all holders of legal or equitable liens of record on the real property and to all owners of record of the property. If the addresses of the owners and/or lien holders are unknown and cannot be ascertained, this 30-day notice requirement will be published one time in a newspaper in general circulation within the township.
I'll move on new business number 2.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded discussion. I would only like to add, if I recall, this is the same owner, correct, of both properties?
Yes.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
So obviously they realize, just for sake of discussion, we do spend a little bit of time on these issues, just to make sure that everything that we're doing is neat and clean according to the process that we have to follow in the law. We usually try to bring in other partners to collaborate so that everything that we do in the investigation process, that we're making sure that we've done everything correct, and we're 100% certain that those properties that we do want to remove are meeting the description of the law. So thanks to zoning and fire department, there is a statute that says the fire department does get involved as well in 50586. So we do spend a lot of time on these, but obviously once we get these taken care of, it certainly makes the neighbors very happy.
and we do have the health department sign off on it as well.
Correct. Health department, building department, fire, so we've got our,
Good job.
Anything else on discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
yes.
And that's the end of new business.
Thank you. That takes us to fiscal officer, Mr. Wolf.
Thank you. Fiscal Officer number 1 is a request for resolution to authorize the payment of pending warrants in an amount of $43,051.53.
I'll move on fiscal officer number 1.
Second,
Moved and seconded, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 2 is a request for resolution to authorize payment of regular payroll in an amount not to exceed $250,000.
So moved.
Second it.
It's been moved and seconded, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 3 is a request for resolution to authorize payment for the following medical claims.
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 4 is the investment report for December. And the total interest for the month was $9,907.42. And the total for 2017 was $89,913.45.
These adjustments and changes were well worth our
That's,
while.
Good job.
Thanks for the good
yeah,
work there.
that made those numbers go up considerably. Good job. Thanks.
Thank you. Fiscal officer number 5A and B are the bank reconciliations for November 2017 and December 2017.
Okay.
All right.
If anyone has questions on those, I'll be available after the meeting.
Thank you.
Fiscal officer number 6 is a request for resolution to provide for the current expenses and other expenditures during the fiscal year ending December 31, 2018. The following sums be and the same are hereby set aside and appropriated for the several purposes for which expenditures are to be made for and during said fiscal year as follows.
So moved.
Seconded. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Fiscal officer number 7 is a request for resolution to authorize a true-up payment to the State of Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation of $7,773.
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion.
Tom, just to clarify this, I mean, they changed how BWC premiums were paid, what, somewhere between 12 to 18
Yeah, about 2
months
years
ago.
ago.
Months ago, so essentially, this is just,
Yeah, what you have to do is estimate what your payroll's going to be for the year, because now you pay in advance, and then you file a true-up report based on your actual wages and pay the difference.
And we've done everything to get every single discount possible with our programs and all the policies that we follow and all the activities that the employees are involved in. So that's kind of also a group effort. So again, thanks for everybody's involvement and keeping those to the bare minimum based on what ours would be. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
yes.
Fiscal officer number 8 is a request for resolution to set a public hearing for Tuesday, February 27, 2018 at 6:15 p.m. for creation of a lighting district as petitioned by property owner Lexington Farms North Limited for Lexington Farms North number 1 and Lexington Farms North number 2, and authorize the Plain Township fiscal officer to make the necessary notification to the property owners and to publish a legal ad in the repository for the hearing.
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Fiscal officer number 9 is a request for a liquor license from NACA Boutique LLC doing business as Ka Nimbu. There were no concerns from the sheriff's department.
We're good to go there?
Yes, sir.
Let's see, we just.
I'm trying to catch that. It's really 31.
Let me see. It's in that short stretch. Isn't that in that short stretch where
I believe it might
Wendy's
be
used to be?
down by Grinders.
Yeah, where Wendy's used to be, right in that short stretch there, where, you know, St. Mike's area, but yeah, somewhere in that block where Grinders.
Yeah.
Pretty sure, is that 3100 block? Yeah, has to be.
You don't need to sit on it then.
Okay. Fiscal officer number 10 is a request for resolution to authorize a refund as follows for overpayments for emergency medical services as requested by Ohio Billing.
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes. Number
This-
11.
Number 11, request for resolution to authorize the following transfers.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
And that concludes the fiscal officer report.
Thanks, Tom. That takes us to the administrator portion of the agenda. Ms. Campbell.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution to pay the U.S. Postal Service for postage for the 2018 Plain Township newsletter.
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 2 is a resolution to approve the printing and creation and editing of the 2018 winter newsletter.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Item number 3 is a resolution to approve and authorize payment to C.R. Kurtz for labor and material for 2 new heaters for the Diamond Sports Complex.
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Item number 4 is an interdepartmental goal, or actually inter-office goal between the administration team and the fiscal officer and his team. We have, and also Eric Haynes, we've met once already to update, review, and investigate our retention schedule to get us up to par where we should be. And we're hoping that we will have this done for the board. Hopefully the second meeting of February, could be the first meeting of March, but it's a huge undertaking, something though that we're doing collaboratively, and it's been good work so far.
Yeah, I personally think it's a good project. I think by getting everybody involved, I think that will help to eliminate duplication of busy work. I think it will make all department heads more aware of the rules and the laws regarding what has to stay in what format. So I know I was involved a little bit with this, and it can be a headache at times. So I like this.
Yeah. Tom and I are also, after this is all done, except it approved, we're scheduling a class with the Ohio Historical Center to actually come here and do training on reference retention, because so much has changed with social media and Facebook, and do you have to keep every email or not, so that's what we're doing for the future. So. And then the last item I have is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to approve the material and installation of the splash pad surface for My Splash Pad at Veterans Park.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion.
You'll see the splash pad attached, yes. And it was the blue and the green. They're doing multicolors, multi-layers. The splash pad itself is what is going to bring safety to our splash pad. You can't have kids running, slipping, falling on concrete. So it's a nice thick surface, and it will create the safety portion of that. And you can see it's designed kind of around our park and
Completion
nature.
of this
Yeah.
really adds to this now,
Yeah.
and I'm glad we found the money to do it.
Yeah, well, thanks to his $20,000 donation,
Yeah.
we're able to do it.
So I know we talked about logos, and I see ours.
Ours is on there, it says they gave him $20,000. I said, absolutely,
I totally
put your
agree.
logo on there. He made it possible for
Yeah.
us,
Well, and
so.
I think, I mean, as we've probably individually discussed with you, Lisa, the fact that doing a formal ribbon cutting and so forth is a way to kick off the season. And
Yes,
again, draw recognition to
yeah.
township-based business.
Yes. And we're hoping, we've already picked the day for installation of the pad, because everything else is there except for the features, because you store those during the winter, but we're hoping for like a Memorial Day kickoff, so we'll begin a ribbon cutting around that.
It's gonna be awesome.
He was targeting what, somewhere in April?
April, yeah, early April to come put it
Yeah.
out. Mhm.
Nice.
Wow.
Good job.
Yeah, and we couldn't have put it on right away. He gave us a timeline for the cement to cure,
Sure.
or you'd have issues, so that's why we're doing it now. Mhm.
Okay, thanks. And that takes us to the fire department.
We need to roll call.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Now that takes us to fire chief Schellenberger.
Thank you. Item number 1 is our monthly report for December.
Yesterday, the busy day, right?
Yeah.
But we have 30,
30 calls yesterday.
2 working fires.
There's a fire.
right close to each other,
62
actually.
Around 62 areas.
Have you ever had 2 working fires at the same time?
In my history, I don't know of 2 that actually were the
We have,
exact same time.
I know we've had or we've left one and gone to
Yeah.
another.
Wow.
Wow.
That's rare, but
Yeah.
No, we were able to help.
any other questions?
Thank you. Item number 2 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to authorize the purchase and payment of 1 Stryker Power XT ambulance cot taken from Stryker EMS in the amount not to exceed $24,000 from account 28805.
So moved.
Second, moved and seconded, discussion.
Just to clarify, this is going in the new medic unit, and this is a migration we made to the power pots. It's been between a year to 2 years ago, because this helps with some of the BWC stuff and
Correct.
reducing back injuries and patient care and handling.
That is correct. This cot mounts into their load system, which makes it safer for travel. It locks into the back of the ambulance, and et cetera. So kind of requires a more updated cot, I guess, for lack of other words.
Okay, any other discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 3 is resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to accept the resignation of Adam Gladys as a Plain Township career firefighter paramedic effective February 2nd, 2018, $700.
So moved.
Second, oh, go ahead. Second, Mr. Lino. Been moved and seconded, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Item number 4 is a resolution by Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to authorize the purchase and payment of a Conoco Minolta copier from Graphic Enterprises in the amount of $5,585 per attached quote to be taken from Fund 10A08.
So moved.
Second. Been moved and seconded, discussion.
Chuck, I mean, you and I chatted earlier, I mean, this really is a real good price on hardware. I've had to deal with this stuff up at my regular office, these guys are, outside of being Stark County and sales reps at Plain Township, those are nice
Yeah.
features, but will this include trade-in, or are we still figuring out on the back end?
Actually, they will let us keep that machine, so we'll be able to
Do something.
possibly transfer that to another department.
Okay.
So that'll, if they choose to do that, if not, we can turn it in.
Yeah, that was a little wheeling and dealing we did today, because, we thought, if another department could use it, the prices were all the same, the only difference was one was gonna take a trade-in, one wasn't. And I said, just call them back and see what they'll do, otherwise, we'll have to go with.
They part this stuff out for precious metals as to,
Yeah.
how it ends up, so a lot of it ends up in waste.
So that,
Exactly good.
yeah, and then Chuck talked to Tom, Tom said, yeah, I think that's,
That's awesome.
and then it sounds like, it's nothing definite right now, but it sounds like with some maintenance and service agreements, that might come together a little bit better as well,
Yeah.
for the whole township actually, so
Definitely.
hopefully that'll go that direction, but, and this one, I know you did a lot of research on this, and it came down to those major issues of cost, trade-in, and then I know the one issue was big for you, was where that was gonna sit and how that workstation was gonna be in the location, and all of that, so.
I feel your pain having
Yeah.
gone through this process for
So,
a copier.
yeah, oh yeah.
Unfortunately, at the fire station, our workstation is set up from a, I guess you'd say a left to right angle, and we can't move that. So one machine was designed the opposite, and this machine will work, I think will work a little better with the
Sure.
flow of paperwork too.
Anything else? Roll call, please.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes. Okay, Chuck, thanks, and that moves us to the road department, Mr. Iacino.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, item number 1 is the December monthly report.
I think the only thing I want to say in regards to that report with now being 2 Saturdays ago, the work by the team, the road guys, the guys that come in from parks and so forth, you did a superb job. You know, hey, we're tooting our own horn, but I mean, it's hard. It drives my wife nuts. I know when you're driving through other communities and be like, this is horrible, or we would have been here by this point. And I know, I think Lisa, you said you were with your mom over in Perry, and some of the roads hadn't even been
No.
touched. So the fact that those guys were out, what was from like noon, 1 o'clock on Friday until about 3, 4 o'clock the next day. I don't think the residents truly have a complete understanding or appreciation for the amount of time, because you think, oh, well, you're sitting behind the wheel driving. I mean, when you got snow coming at you, you know,
Hypnotizes you.
yeah.
Ask Eric, you got the right truck for a little while. It's
Yeah.
a little bit more than just
Well,
driving.
and he did put the video on our website, Facebook and Twitter, and it really shows you how those drivers, it comes at you, it's hard to see.
It's almost like puts you in a trance.
Yeah,
if you don't.
and then when you have a car, you know, parking ban, and there's a car on each side of the road, I don't know how they don't get hit. I mean, that's, our drivers really go through a lot.
And of course, those are the ones where we occasionally get the calls.
Yeah.
My car's have been buried in, even though.
Yeah,
You're lucky, yeah.
Yeah,
They did a phenomenal job.
I think just as much as it's internal, and I'd be remiss, but it's for the sheriff's office as well, because we know you guys get the calls, hey, we need these guys moved, ticketed, towed, whatever. So likewise,
Exactly.
thank you.
You know, that whole issue, I mean, that last time, just, you know, you're dealing with 50-degree weather, it's gonna drop 20 degrees, and oh, by the way, it's raining in between that transition, so what do we go after? Because we know we're gonna have ice, and then we're gonna have snow, and, you know, so obviously, that's why when we, you know, we have all those variety of resources to be able to take care of those issues. By the way, that tank looked nice too.
It's coming along.
Yeah, for the
guys are
brine.
Working on it.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Item number 2, I just want to thank the board, Lisa, Parks crew, and Captain Springer, Sergeant Koenig, and Sergeant Hall. We got a lot of cars moved that night with this parking ban. You guys please thank dispatch for me, because I know they were probably tired of hearing us. But we're probably looking at 75 to 80 cars. I don't know how many were ticketed or towed, but I know that's how many we called in. And, it was a total team effort. These guys did a great job. They never told me no, you know, that they were too busy or anything. So I really do appreciate it.
Good. Okay, thanks, Joe. Now we'll move to zoning, Mr. Ferrara.
Thank you, Mr. President. Item number 1 is the monthly report, and that's on hard copy in front of you.
I'd like to put on the record that Tom keeps our inspector busy all winter long. We finally have a proactive inspection of signs and properties and issues all winter long, when in the past we were told we didn't need an inspector, and he's busy and he's finding issues and it's proactive, so.
And I would agree with that, because every little issue that I have ever had, it's either that day or the next day, and even the citizens call back and say, wow, that guy got out here awful fast. Well, that's because they're efficient. So, believe me, everybody notices that.
Thank you. Vince and Vicki are doing a great job.
And he was out there quickly for me the other day, I mean, he's out there and got an answer right away.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Item number 2 is a resolution to approve abatement payment for item A.
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
And that's all we have for zones.
Thanks, Tom. Next we'll move to Parks, Mr. Steinberg.
Thank you, gentlemen. Item number 1 is the monthly report.
There's been a lot of frequent trustee settings down at the indoor facility possibly. Is that around the call?
Not yet, no, I'm a little surprised, but I've been informed that it will happen.
Tomorrow.
I saw a couple gophers when I went by.
We have a video one too, but we won't go there.
Would have been there today, but I didn't want to get sweaty in my tie.
So,
That was pretty impressive, I will say, and I'm not a golf guy, but
I was pleased with the way they've come out. We've got them spaced well. We had folks stop in to see what they were about yesterday, and they were back today hitting, so we're starting to get some traffic, so we're happy. Which brings me to the next piece, which is our indoor golf update. We are open. We are open 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Mondays through Fridays, excluding holidays. For people to come in, rent a bucket of balls for $5 or $10 and get your swing ready for spring. So please come out and see us. We're happy to have you.
It's a great video too.
yeah.
Showed a lot of people that video, and they liked it. A lot of them will be coming because of that video.
I just wish we could see more of the gopher.
Not sure about that costing on that individual though.
Well, I'll let you guys fight that out.
Yeah. It's gone well, and thanks, Joe, for coming down and being our guinea pig, if nothing else.
I guess we don't need the golf swing on this.
Well, I was gonna let it slide, let's be honest.
All right, nothing from our law director? All right, that brings us to communications.
Yeah, Lisa's asked me to handle this one as she's recovering from a coughing fit.
All right.
The first one is from Carol Sparhawk, and it is regarding the road crew. She says, "My hat is off to the great guys of the road department in Plain Township that keep the road clear of snow and ice. I see them plowing the roads and dropping salt as they go through the neighborhoods. I'm so thankful I live in Plain Township, and one of the best reasons is the road crew. Thank you so much. Appreciate all of you. Be safe." Item number 2, also from a resident, Angela Seaver. Just wanted to let you know what an awesome job you all are doing on our roads. This past Saturday, I had a party to get to. She left her place on 32nd Street and traveled through numerous areas through the city of Canton as well as Perry Township, where it was smooth sailing and playing while it was nail biting in the other areas. I just wanted someone to know you are greatly appreciated. Keep up the great work.
Very good. Joe, do you read these to these guys? Do you let them see?
You post them on the board down there.
Do you post, do they all go read it? Do they know it's there and they look at it, or is it better just to read it and find it so they actually hear it?
No, I let them know.
Do they? That, you know, it's a good thing.
Item number 3 is to Captain Haynes. Dear Captain Haynes, I appreciate your help as I was driving my car without the key, not too bright. Your protection and your kind attitude were greatly appreciated. Be careful out there. Sincerely, Fran.
Balderdash.
Nice job, Eric. He was just, traveling through the township and saw somebody stuck and helped her out of a tricky situation.
Related to you?
I wouldn't have expected anything.
She looked eerily similar when she saw by, but she was a very sweet lady. She was very
She
appreciative of
brought
herself.
candy in too, so.
Okay, so that brings us to the portion of public speaks. If there's anybody in the audience that wants to address the board, please give your name and address to the fiscal officer.
Good evening, Bob Brenneman, 4133 Plains Center Northeast. I want to convey a special thanks and appreciation on 3 topics areas this evening. First off is the noise problem. I'm thumbs up with that. I mean, I don't know who all helped with that, but I really appreciate that. I'm glad the operator over there is a reasonable fellow too. The second one is the road department too. Last week, right after that snowstorm, the stop sign at Plains Center in Martindale was down. My wife called the road department. Within an hour, it was fixed. That's great too. And also the electric aggregate Plain Township deal. That's I was on the phone with First Energy a day or two after the last meeting, and they were gonna look into it, and they said, well, they're, you know, you're gonna get a, you know, letter in the mail, you know, they're going with somebody else in this, what, mid-America?
America.
Yeah, I mean, you know, rates even better than we had before per kilowatt hour. And I appreciate that. You know.
So you were pleased with that process?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Oh, yeah, it's
Good.
yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, every little bit. You know.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you all for.
Sure.
Yeah.
Anything else? Anybody else? Okay, that takes us to concerns of trustees, Mr. Hawes.
I asked for the subject of yard waste drop-off to be put on here. With our quarterly newsletter having hit, you know, some of the prior discussions that we've had here, we all know that the Stark Wayne Joint Solid Waste District is the one that oversees and funds essentially all of these yard waste drop-offs, whether it's Jackson Township, Plain Township, Canton Township, and a number of the other locations. I've gotten a couple calls, folks going, you guys can't, you know, you're my elected official, you can't shut this down, you just raised my taxes. So I've been through it, so I've just felt compelled that, I'm not gonna tell you, there's been dozens of these calls, there have been enough in relation to what we typically would get on anything like this, that for the sake of public record, one, the funding is handled by the Stark Joint Solid Waste District. So if residents have concerns and issues about it, it's okay to escalate that to your board, but most importantly, you must and you need to communicate that to the Joint Solid Waste District directly. I'm a firm believer that I don't want to call pressure, but that type of feedback will help persuade and direct some considerations. We were told over a year, not quite a year and a half ago, what was going on, and that we're likely going to lose one of the two locations. Unfortunately, some of the folks have been interpreting the newsletter that Easton, which is the highest volume site in the county, is the one closing. So leapfrog that over to, you know, there's this next door application where folks can go out and, I mean, the perceptions and the comments are so far unfounded and off the reservation when it comes to, you know, whether how it's funded or what needs to be done. I've tried to provide some feedback out there on it, stressing, hey, direct it to the Joint Solid Waste District. There's folks that thought it was only going to become commercial-only dumping, and I said we had some issues. It's been nipped in the rear through surveillance where we've actually made people come back out and pick that type of stuff up. So for the sake of the public record, we don't know what or when the location is going to close. It's highly likely that Worshler Brothers, based upon initial guidance, but I wanted the record to reflect one of the individuals I did have a good conversation with, you know, who said, hey, as a board, we hope you guys will at least look out if, say for some reason, everything in Plain got consolidated somewhere else, which I think is low probability. We're going to still have one pretty strong on that. Our options, you know, essentially are they're going to have to contract with private entities because we don't have a funding source that's sustainable to provide that, or, you know, look at other options, whether it's a user fee per dump. I was just asked that our board keep that in the back of our mind. And that being said, I think it's important, our next Stark County Township Association meeting, February 15th, our board actually has most of the agenda laid out, and ironically, the subject's going to be, it's going to be sponsored by Craig Snee of Earth and Wood. He's going to talk through some of the yard waste disposal and so forth, but Dave Held's going to be there as well. So I think this is a good opportunity to further stress our concerns and provide input there, but simultaneously get better educated on some of those factors so we can have a more engaging, meaningful conversation with our residents when that comes about, so.
I've asked Joe and Rob and Marilyn and Linda to attend because we get the phone calls.
You're gonna get the calls,
Even
right?
Chief, if he's able to, we get the phone calls.
Sure.
So I want them to be as educated as possible.
Yeah, and which I would say this, I mean, we want to be responsive to our residents, but outside of trying to give a baseline response, I really think these calls should be ultimately routed to the Stark Tusculum Joint Solid Waste District, not a, oh, hey, sorry, not us, you're gonna have to give a little bit of an explanation, but
Right.
tell them in order to really escalate this, because outside of us coming in, I know our voice carries some weight, but there's also strength in numbers, so.
You're right.
Because that just kind of supports everything, obviously. We're gonna try to support the fact that we wanna keep our site open.
Right.
So if we can lobby to do that with both us, the board, lobbying for that, but getting calls from citizens in Plain Township, I think any of that will help. But, you know, I think we've done a lot of work and spent a lot of effort to make sure that we have a good site. Just that fact of that we're the busiest, so, you know, why would you close that one down? You know, when it's already being used by a lot of people, so, you know, at least for me, I think you all feel the same, we're gonna lobby that if any of them close, we don't want it to be that one.
Correct.
So,
Because unfortunately, I mean, we're talking about the area that probably impact our section the most.
Yeah.
The closest proximity is at least Jackson over there, and I mean, yeah, it's not as convenient, but I still think it's probably more convenient than trying to cut across 62 or anything to get over
Right.
to this one. Unfortunately, the economics are driving it. I think we all know, I mean, I was here a little over 8 years, and I think at that point, they were still paying us then
Yeah.
to take the yard waste, and over time, it's just turned from them paying us to we started paying them, and those numbers have ramped up significantly, so.
yeah, there's regulars. I mean, if that gate isn't opened exactly at the right time, they're knocking on the gate like, yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
And the
yeah.
other thing, Trustee Hawes, is we've been getting phone calls about why are we closed? And I think it's just concern over closing in general, but we always do a winter shutdown. We've never been
No,
open
we haven't.
year-round.
Correct.
After that, we actually stayed open longer than the solid waste district did, but there's always a winter shutdown.
Always.
Yeah, I think it's that coincidence
I think so, too.
that people think they just see that now and they're assuming
Yeah.
that it's closed now, so. Anything else? Good discussion. All right, any concerns of the fiscal officer?
No concerns.
That means then that we have an approval of the minutes.
Also move on the approval of minutes for January 9th, 2018.
I'll second that. Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Okay, we do have a need for an executive session. Be it hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to adjourn to executive session at 6:43 from the regular meeting of January 23rd? Yep, January 23rd, is authorized under Ohio Revised Code 121.22G for the purpose of the consideration of A, appointment of public employee or official, B, employment of public employee or official, F, compensation of a public employee or official, and 7, to consider confidential information regarding or related to marketing plans, and which actually comes down to economic development.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Sabo?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.